All right, it's time for us to look at Scarlet and Violet. Today we're looking at the top 10 cards from the new set. This is Scarlet and Violet base set, so our very first set from Scarlet and Violet. As always, we're going to look at the art first. We have some really good art in this set. Although, to be fair, Pokemon has really just pushed the art like crazy ever since Brilliant Stars. Very much looking forward to the art as we continue through the Scarlet and Violet era. Just these are highlights, obviously. There are so many good arts in this set, it's impossible to hit them all. But I want to hit a couple of these here. These in particular, Gardevoir and Naridon, of course, are some of the more playable archetypes coming out of Scarlet and Violet base set. Gardevoir's, I don't have the line here, but Gardevoir has like this art going through its entire evolution. As the Gardevoir evolves, the family gets older and kind of evolves itself. It's just really awesome art to see this kind of linking of a story between the different arts. And then, of course, Maridon is there with Doxbun just kind of being super cool looking. That's what Maridon does. That's why everybody loves Violet more than Scarlet. If you like Scarlet more than Violet, chances are you're thirsty for the Professor. So, yeah. Anyway, a couple other really cool arts from this set. We have Armarouge. Armarouge, of course, fairly decent card. We saw it in our testing video for both Mousehold and for Arcanine. Definitely pretty good card, but the art here is just really cool. And I hope Nigizmo, the artist for this Armarouge, does the artwork for Cerulege in the future so we can have some sort of, I don't know, similarity between the two. Kind of a, just so they can be a unique pair. Maybe a Cerulege is on the other side of this corridor or something. It'd be really cool either way. And then, of course, Miriam. Miriam's a very popular character from the games, especially in Japan, where her card is extremely expensive. And then this artwork in general is just really cool, especially because this card is a pretty playable card. So it's nice to have a beautiful art like this. Now, as with every set, we're going to hit some honorable mentions first. Now, as this is a base set, there are a lot of reprints that we're going to see right out of the gate. So starting with a few of these are all new arts, so new regulations, fresh cards, if you will, but they're not necessarily new. These are cards that are just not rotating effectively. These are cards that even if they were at risk before, they're not rotating now because they've been refreshed with these new regulation marks. So these are all G regulation mark now. So you've got Crushing Hammer, you've got Pokemon Catcher, Energy Retrieval, Rare Candy, Energy Search, Switch, Energy Switch, Ultra Ball, and it keeps going. Pokeball, Pokegear, both of these Professor Research arts, of course, are Professor's Research. Vitality Band for that niche situation you might need. Rocky Helmet for your bulk binder. Judge for a lot of different decks. EXP Share for that random deck. And, of course, Potion for that one random control deck that's going to take over the meta again. Yeah, lots of reprints. They're all very welcome. It's nice to have them around. I think Vitality Band especially, it's one of those cards that you don't really think about until you think, actually, that's probably useful to have. It's just a nice to have when Choice Belt in particular is going to start losing a little bit of its grip on usefulness as the sets continue. But reprints aside, we're not here for the reprints. Reprints are cool, but that's not why we're here. We're going to look at Armarouge. Armarouge I talked about earlier with the art, but card's good too. Armarouge has an ability called Fire Alarm. As often as you like during your turn, you may move a fire energy attached to one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon. So you can use Magma Basin to throw the fire energy on Armarouge or some other fire Pokemon, and then use Armarouge itself to push that energy to your active Pokemon. So if it's a Mousehold, for example, you can fulfill that double attack, the double colorless attack cost with an Armarouge, right? Just fire, move all the energy up, works real great. And if you're a really high cost attacker like Entei, it's also a nice way to get a little bit of extra energy in place, so that or to your Arcanine rather than in play, so that you have enough energy to actually attack. And then Flame Cannon, really not that important, but it's there if you need it. If you're really desperate in attacking with Armarouge, you've probably lost. Revavroom, also a pretty decent card. Didn't quite make the top 10. Has a rumbling engine ability. You may discard a card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So this is, in some ways, it's a worse Industrious Incisors, right? You're more limited. You have to discard an energy card in order to draw. However, the flip side to that is you're also drawing an extra card. It's kind of a midway between Radiant Greninja and Bibarel. My testing with Darkrai, it's actually not been too bad. I've been kind of happy with it. But Darkrai is a very energy-heavy deck, so keep that in mind. Yeah, but it's more niche than either Bibarel or Greninja simply because of that requirement. But still worth keeping an eye on. And Defiant Band, I did mention this when I talked about Vitality Band. Defiant Band is good, but it's really niche because you do need to be behind on prize cards. You have to search it out, which means you're going to have to play an Arven, which means you may need to play a Luminion to search for the Arven. It's one of those things where it's really cool once you have it, if you have it, but by golly, is it not always there when you want it. But what does it do? If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, the attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon before applying weakness and resistance. So this is basically a choice belt, except it doesn't require your opponent's Pokemon to be a Pokemon V. So with Pokemon X, they are not going to be hit for extra damage with a choice belt. Choice belt does not give a damage boost when you're attacking those Pokemon. Defiant Band, though, if you're behind on prize cards, does give you a boost no matter what's in front of you, which is great. But again, it's pretty situational, and how much play it ends up seeing, I'm kind of interested in seeing. Like it's one of those cards that's going to be really, really good in really specific situations, and when people figure out how to make it work when it needs to work, it's going to see lots of play. But I don't know if it's going to be like that right off the bat. All right, now for the actual top 10. These are the cards that I think are just the best from the set. They are the cards that we've really liked in our testing, cards that we've enjoyed playing with. Starting right out of the gate, Miriam, right? I talked about her in the art earlier. Miriam, shuffle up to 5 Pokemon cards from your discard pile into your deck, then draw 3 cards. Is good. Like, is it as good as Clara in some situations? No, it's not. But it's also a draw option. So if you've discarded something with Ultra Ball, for example, suddenly Miriam's live, right? Even if it's not necessarily the time you want to be recovering cards, if you need to draw cards, she's now an option. So your recovery is not just a dead card, which is good because Clara frequently is just a dead card unless you have Radiant Greninja in play. So again, Miriam, very good card. And for decks that need some bulk to their evolution lines and stuff like Gardevoir, a copy of Miriam is pretty nice to have. It can make the difference between having what you need and not, especially in the later game. Number 9. I can totally talk today. Number 9 is Mesa Gosa. So once during each player's turn, that player may flip a coin. If heads, that player searches their deck for a Pokemon, reveals it, and puts it into their hand. Then that player shuffles their deck. Or if you want the real simple way to explain this card, it's Pokeball as a stadium. That's what it is. It is actually really good. Now, at first glance, you're thinking, that's not that good, or it's really not that interesting. Let me tell you, both as somebody who has tested with the card for Scarlet and Violet, and as somebody who has played a card with this exact same effect in a custom format, it's amazing. This card is way more powerful than it looks at a glance. Yes, your opponent also has access to the same effect, but honestly, it's kind of worth it. It's just that good. Lugia, a lot of builds of Lugia are going to want to play Mesa Gosa. They need to find their Archeops. Mesa Gosa isn't out to that. They want to find the Lugia V to get it evolved next turn. Mesa Gosa isn't out to that. Just decks in general that need to have heavy search and don't really care about another stadium card. Mesa Gosa is the card. It's just so good. It really, really is. Number 8, Skwovet. So the ability Hidey Hole. I don't think that's the official translation, but I haven't seen it in card in English yet. I've only seen it in French. But either way, once during your turn, you may use this ability. Shuffle your hand and put it on the bottom of your deck. Then draw a card. Pretty good paired up with Bibarel, let me tell you. If your hand is full of garbage you can't get rid of, and you're like, you know what? I would love to make this not a garbage hand, but I also don't want to nuke this with the professor's research or thin it down too heavily with Ultra Ball. Skwovet's your guy. He's the one that's going to come in, and he's going to jam all your garbage cards away and allow you to draw a fresh hand with Bibarel. It's super good. And if you can stack your deck with an energy on top, it's not actually that bad with Revavroom either. Just saying. But yeah, Skwovet, very interesting. The big downside to Skwovet, though, is that it does get shut off by Klefki. So if your opponent has a Klefki active for some reason, Skwovet, not as useful. But yeah, definitely worth keeping an eye on Skwovet too. I mentioned Arvin earlier. Arvin says, search your deck for an item card and a Pokemon tool card, reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Yes, an item and a Pokemon tool card. They are no longer, Pokemon tool cards are no longer item cards as a Scarlet Violet base set, which is a huge change to how they work. And what's also important to know too is Pokemon tool cards that were printed before Scarlet and Violet are now also no longer considered item cards, even though they do, yes, have item printed on the card. They are not item cards anymore per game rules. They're all being eroded to be just Pokemon tools. It's big, but Arvin lets you search for both an item card and a tool card, so that can be an energy search and a Defiant Band. That can be a Nest Ball and a Forest Sealstone. It's very flexible. It's actually a lot stronger of a card than you might think, just because of what it can get, right? A tool card like Forest Sealstone, that's search whatever you want, basically, right? And Arvin becomes your access to that a lot of times. Super good card, definitely worth keeping an eye on and get a playset of. All right, now we have our first chase card, if you will. So Gardevoir X, ability Psychic Embrace. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic psychic energy from your discard pile to one of your psychic Pokemon. If you do, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. You can't use that ability to attach an energy to a Pokemon that has 20 or less HP remaining. So basically, you can't knock the Pokemon out by attaching energy cards to it with Psychic Embrace. But that also means you can flood energy onto whatever it is you're attaching to. Now, it does have to be a psychic Pokemon, but that's okay. We have some decent options. Zacian V from Celebrations, pretty good option. Actually, it's a really good option. There's the Drifloon, I always say the wrong one. Drifloon, very, very good option. As a single prizer, Gardevoir itself, not a bad option. And I'm forgetting a lot off the top of my head right now, but there are quite a few options that Gardevoir can use. There's also options like the Baby Gardevoir from Chilling Reign and Gallade from Astral Radiance. There's just a lot of really good options for Gardevoir as an attacker, or as a component of a psychic attacking deck. And Gardevoir itself is not a horrible attacker. He does 190 with Miraculous Force and recovers from any special conditions. But ultimately, you're not trying to attack with Gardevoir. Gardevoir isn't your real attacker. It's the center of a psychic style box that happens to have the Gardevoir engine as a component of its consistency, right? You've got Kirlia, you've got Gallade, you've got the other Gardevoir. They're all different pieces of the Gardevoir Kirlia engine, and it's super good. This is the new Inteleon. It's a very good engine. Definitely get all the pieces to it while you can before they get even pricier. Number 5, Klefki. Talked about Klefki a little bit ago. Has the ability Mischievous Lock. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, basic Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents have no abilities except for Mischievous Lock. So if you remember Empoleon V, this is a very similar ability, but Empoleon V didn't affect Rulebox Pokemon. This does. This shuts off all of the basic abilities from all basic Pokemon. That includes yours, so do keep that in mind. Now, because I'm sure there's going to be a question about it, a little bit of information about how this card works. Let's say you start a Klefki and your opponent starts an Empoleon V, right? Which one wins? The answer to that question is whoever's turn it is, basically. So if let's say you go first and you have the Klefki in the active spot, Klefki wins. If you're going second and you have Klefki in the active spot, well, then your opponent's going to win, right? That ability is going to win out. So whoever is going first in that situation is going to have the ability of their Pokemon win in that particular situation. This is how it goes. And then there is Joust. So Joust, I can do a little bit of effect there. So before doing any damage, discard all Pokemon tool cards attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So not a ton of damage, but it gets rid of some tools. Not awful. Number 4, Beach Court. I don't know why they just couldn't reprint Sky Arrow Bridge, but I mean, here we are. We have Beach Court. The retreat cost of each basic Pokemon in play is colorless less. So this is actually a lot more powerful than you might think. People are like, it's just one. It's a stadium card. It's pretty great. People are like, oh, I don't understand. How is Lost Box going to work after rotation? Beach Court's great. You only need 2 or 3 of them in the deck, but it's really, really, really good when you have it. It just allows you to get the retreat in there without having to get rid of energy. It's good. Like I can't say anymore. It's good. If you've watched any of our testing videos, a lot of the decks actually ran Beach Court, and you'll see just how influential it was on some of the games. Being able to pull that active Pokemon to the bench without having to get rid of energy. Giratina loves this, right? Because you're gonna have to lose his own energy with Giratina's attack. And if you're having to discard those for retreat costs, that's an energy you no longer have to use to put into the Lost Zone. If you're using Beach Court, though, that energy stays in play, making it available later, which means you don't have to ditch it. And you have a little bit more longevity with your attacks, which is huge. Anyway, Beach Court, super good card. Grab a playset. Electricity Generator, number 3. So look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose up to 2 basic lightning energy cards and attach them to your benched lightning Pokemon any way you like. Then shuffle the remaining cards into your deck. This card is super strong. It is, if you've ever played with Max Elixir, it is a very similar card to Max Elixir. You're looking at fewer cards, but you're attaching up to 2 basic lightning energy cards to your benched lightning Pokemon. This can be used to power up something very, very quickly. In testing with Naridon went from 0 to 1,000 very, very quickly because of this card. You could get those turn 1 attacks, get those knockouts with Photon Blaster because of electricity. I can't talk. Because of Electricity Generator, and that can be such a huge momentum swing early on in the game. So again, another card. Grab a playset. They're an uncommon. Just get them, have them, enjoy them while you can. And its best partner, number 2, Naridon X. Ability is Tandem Unit. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for 2 basic lightning Pokemon and put them onto your bench. Then shuffle your deck. So this ability is astonishingly good. They were like, oh, they really made Koridon and Maridon so underwhelming. Yeah, Koridon's horribly underwhelming. if you haven't already seen the video that it goes live, it should have been gone live this morning as of the time this goes live, but I did a webcam war with 9-card TCG, and he plays Koridon. You really need to just watch it. I play Spidops. You need to watch it. You just feel the Koridon, or rather the lack of power it has. But Maridon does not have that power. It does not have that lack, rather. Maridon's super, super strong. That Tandem Unit ability is extremely potent. It allows you to just set up, right? It's something that even Mew craves. Mew would love something like this in its deck. It just, just give you a hint at how amazing this ability is. If you're used to Mew and how Mew plays, read it instead of basic lightning Pokemon as Fusion Strike Pokemon, and then you kind of grasp just how broken this ability is. It's like once during your turn, you may search your deck for 2 Fusion Strike Pokemon and put them onto your bench. And now keep in mind, in this scenario, Maridon itself would also be a Fusion Strike Pokemon because it is a lightning Pokemon. So Maridon can find itself, which means you can chain these. You can go Maridon and Flaffy and Maridon and Flaffy. It's crazy good. You guarantee your setup every time you have Maridon available to you. So your Ultra Ball becomes an entire filled board. It's super strong. And Photon Blaster is just the icing on the cake, right? You're doing 220 damage. You're able to power yourself up with Electricity Generator or with Flaffy's abilities, Dynamotor, right? Getting there, knocking stuff out pretty quickly, pretty early on. Those squishy Vs, they do go down pretty easily. Yes, you have to retreat to reset the effect. But again, we just looked at Beach Court. Beach Court reduces your retreat cost by 1. You have a retreat cost of 1, which means you're a free retreater now with Beach Court. Super, super strong card. Absolutely going to see a lot of play. It's gonna be squeezing all sorts of things. Like there's obviously the Maridon with Regieleki build. There's the Maridon with Ampharos, which is one I prefer, but Ampharos is in the stupid starter decks. Whatever. I'm not bitter. Either way, both builds are very interesting. I prefer the Flaffy build with Ampharos, but their deck's good either way. So absolutely grab some Maridons. I would say 3 is probably adequate. 4 for insurance if you really feel like you want to make sure you have enough. But in my testing, 3 has been plenty because you really only need like 2 or 3 of them out in a game. Honestly, 2 most of the time is plenty, and that's just because you want to be able to chain it. And the third one is just a guarantee you have 2 of them available too, so you don't, if you prize one, you're fine. Either way, Maridon's super good. And then number one, I don't think there was any question about what card was going to be here. Ultra Ball made number one for Brilliant Stars, and Nest Ball 100% deserves number one for Scarlet and Violet base set. You know, if you've watched the streams for our testing, I've said dozens of times Nest Ball is best ball, and that's because it just allows you to set up. It makes it so that you can do what you need to do to get your board going. It feels, yes, it's a less broken card than Quick Ball. It's not thinning your hand. It's not allowing you to use these Pokemon to play them down for their effects. It's just letting you set up, right? It's a battle VIP pass, or half of one, but it's one that you can use any turn of the game and not just your first turn. It's amazing. I am so glad that Nest Ball is back. It feels a little bit like the Sun and Moon era is back, especially the early Sun and Moon era, which I love. And Nest Ball is obviously a part of it. Now we just need Lily. we can let research go. Maybe we can bring back in, I don't know. Either way, Nest Ball 100%. It's a staple card. You need your 4 copies. It will see play in nearly every deck. It's that good of a card. If you've never seen Nest Ball before, if you've never played with Nest Ball before, I don't know what to tell you. You need it. Like I said, there's no doubt that this is the best card in the set. Long after Naridon gets power crept, long after Gardevoir gets countered by some crazy dark deck in a set or two, Nest Ball is going to continue to see play because it's just that good. Anyway, with that said, everyone, thank you guys for watching. Hit up the highlights for this set on justinbasil.com. Link in the description, and I will see you in the next video.